One of the first things that I like to do in the new year is sit down at the beginning of January and outline all of my goals for the new year. I try to stick to a plan that keeps me on track for accomplishing my top 10 goals, but sometimes things come up unexpectedly, and this is where having a strong plan B in place can help get you back on track. Hey House Stackers, welcome to episode number 34 of the Stacking Houses podcast, where we're helping working professionals create a solid plan B, a side hustle of passive streams of income through real estate investing. I'm your host, Damon Santamaria, and my goal for each show is to provide you with some practical and inspiring information so that you can create a solid financial plan for yourself. So to help you on your journey, I want to give you our beginner's guide to getting started in real estate, which outlines all of the key steps that investors need to take in order to acquire your first, your second, your third investment property. And you can pick this up simply by going to stackinghouses.com/beginner. And while you're there, you can check out our blog, my free book, as well as a great training on where Jim and I are finding awesome deals in today's landscape. So as I mentioned during the intro, and I mentioned during the intro of every single one of my podcasts, my purpose, my mission is to help you, the working professional, create a solid plan B or a side hustle, right? That's my mission. And so today, that's going to be the focus of the podcast. And as I mentioned also in the intro, I like to start each year by creating a list of my top 10 goals that I want to accomplish for the year. So usually 4 or 5 of them relate to lifestyle improvement and family related goals, and the other 5 or 6 relate to my financial goals, which can be tied to my real estate business and of course Stacking Houses Academy as well. So I try to be extremely mindful with each goal so that when I look back at the end of December, I will have really accomplished and moved the needle in so many parts of my life. And I know this is, geeky and nerdy, but I really do love setting goals and accomplishing those goals because, this year when I reviewed my 2021 goals, I'm happy to say that I accomplished so many of them, but of course not all of them because many of my goals are stretch goals. And in order to accomplish a stretch goal, you have to go, really over and above, and really the stars have to align in order to hit some of those very difficult goals, right? But I was able to cross off many of those goals that on my list, and many times I carry some of those good goals forward, like, for example, exercising and eating healthy. That's one goal that tends to carry over every January. So, one of the goals I had to cross off the list because I'd really changed my strategy and the goal was no longer relevant. But for the other 9 goals, I made tremendous headway. So for each goal, I try to develop a roadmap or a strategy to get me from point A to point B, since these are very difficult goals to achieve inside of 12 months. Usually the roadmap keeps me on task and I'm able to muscle through to the finish line, but what happens when some unforeseeable circumstance or condition pops up and derails your plans? And this could be related to our goal that is, some goal that you have. It could be related to your job or your business. It could be related to your investment strategy. And I know I've talked about this in the past, but growing up, my father used to always say, what if? What if things don't go as planned? What if someone moves your cheese? What if some catastrophic, life-altering event happens? What is your plan B? And as a kid, I would always try to poke holes in this theory saying, oh, that'll never happen, or, why would you, even think of something so stupid as this? But as life transpired more and more, I found that Dad's old wisdom held true. And there's been so many times in my life where, I've been planning to do something or go somewhere, and out of the blue, something happened that I couldn't foresee. So here's a great example that just happened the other day. It was over Christmas break, and my wife and I took the kids to San Antonio to visit with my wife's family. And several months ago, my wife had booked us to stay at the Hyatt Hill Country Resort, and we've been staying there for the last 10 years. But this year, we decided to bring our new puppy dog along. And she's a great dog. She does bark a lot, but in addition to having this new dog, we have 3 children, and typically we all try to stay in one room, and usually we get 2 queen beds and a rollaway. In this specific room, my wife has been booking for the last 10 years, no problem. So, as you know, on the drive over to Houston, I'm driving and I'm thinking, and I had this weird thought that for some reason, we're not going to be able to get the room that we had booked. So, emulating my own father, I said to my wife and my kids, what if we can't check in? What should we do? And of course, in typical fashion, my kids replied, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. We've been staying here for years. Why are you so worried? Blah, blah, blah. To which I replied, we should have a backup plan just in case something happens that we can't stay at the Hyatt. What should we do? And when, wouldn't you know, as soon as my wife checked in at the front desk, they said that they're no longer offering rollaway beds in the rooms due to a change in fire code standards, right? They had allowed us to book the room. We were planning on this vacation, and right when we check in, we've got all of our luggage with us, our dog, sure enough, something happened. And we asked if they could accommodate us in any other way by getting an adjoining room. However, because it was the holidays, nothing was available. Now, it's a good thing that we have a lot of family that lives in San Antonio, including my wife's parents, that were gracious enough to allow us to stay with them and include our new dog with us. But, it goes to show you that even with minor things, it's good to have a plan B in place because you just never know. Now, I've been harping on this for years now. Long before I was let go from my company in a corporate merger, I knew that I had to have a solid plan B and plan C in place if things didn't work out. And it's important to look back at history and major life events that have proven to be catastrophic for Americans. And this includes the Great Depression, both world wars, and then in more modern events, things like 9/11, the Great Recession, and COVID. And when you look back at these milestones, were you completely crippled, taken off guard, or were you busy implementing your plan B? Putting into action your contingency strategy. And granted, no one saw 9/11 coming. No one saw, COVID coming. Very few people saw the Great Recession coming. But as many of you heard in the past, the Chinese symbol for crisis and opportunity are very similar. I've heard this from friends and other podcasters. And so I thought I would do a little bit of research myself. And after researching, I found that the symbols are not necessarily identical, but there is an expression, a Chinese expression that says, opportunity accompanies crisis and challenge, which for me means that when people see calamity, it's probably because they have no backup plan in place. They become a victim and they ride the wave down because they're completely unprepared and taken off guard. One of my favorite movies is The Big Short, which highlights the fact that very few people saw the subprime mortgage meltdown coming except for Michael Burry, played by Christian Bale. And as the story goes, Michael placed a long-term bet exceeding $1 billion, betting that there would be an extremely unstable market in response to interest rates rising from adjustable rate mortgages, as well as the fact that all you had to do was fog a mirror back in those days and you could get a mortgage. Many times those mortgages, they were paying you at the closing table to take that mortgage, right? People that would normally never qualify. So, he created what's called a credit default swap, allowing him to basically short mortgage-backed securities. And although it took some time for his plan to, finally be realized, eventually the market did collapse, and his fund, because he was shorting the market, it increased by a value of 489%. Now, this is a perfect example of where opportunity was lying in crisis. So for me, I don't need to be this accurate. I don't need to bet $1 billion, but I do need to be really prepared for the next big downturn. And who knows when that's going to be. And I'm not saying that I need to time the market, because that's almost impossible to do, but I need to have a plan in place to mitigate downside risk, as well as take advantage of the fact that most likely when this crisis, some arbitrary crisis in the future happens, because it's going to happen, likely asset prices will be extremely depressed, and therefore it should create an opportunity of a lifetime to buy, whether it's a stock, a mutual fund, it's real estate, whatever. That's the opportunity to buy when everyone's running for the hills. An example of this was when COVID hit and the Dow dropped down to something like $18,000 or $19,000. And I was sitting on a large portion of cash specifically designated to buy stocks for this exact situation. And once I saw that the market had somewhat stabilized, I moved in and I started buying. And this resulted in a quick 25% gain over the next several months. And, I could have sat back and complained about how, some of my other account values had dropped and played the victim, or I could have taken advantage of the fact that the asset prices were low and I used it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to buy. So, how does this all relate to real estate investing? Well, we still have an opportunity, a great opportunity to buy properties at historical low interest rates. Yes, the price of housing in general has gone up due to COVID, but I see this trend continuing long into the future. And next week, I'm going to be interviewing Aaron Chapman, who's an expert on the Fed, interest rates, and lending, and he's going to give us an update on where the market is heading, and you want to stay tuned for that. That interview should air next Thursday, January 13th, so stay tuned for that. But in closing, I want you to be prepared for the future no matter what it'll hold for you. And I want you to have a solid plan B or a contingency plan in place, because as Winston Churchill famously said, you never want to let a good crisis go to waste. So I hope this has been helpful. I would also be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I also would love to hear what some of your goals and your plan B is, and how I can help you accomplish those goals. So hit me up at damon@stackinghouses.com, and I'd be happy to connect with you there, or over any type of social media on Instagram or on our Facebook page as well. And hopefully, if you're seriously considering investing in yourself and becoming a professional, I highly encourage you to sign up for Stacking Houses Academy, where you're going to learn the step-by-step process that Jim and I each took to grow our multi-million-dollar real estate businesses. And here's the best part. We've extended the holiday sale where you can get Stacking Houses Academy for 50% off the retail price of $997, which is only $497. So Jim and I really want you to go into the new year ready to make a real impact on your net worth and your cash flow. So be sure to check that out at stackinghouses.com. And if you liked what you heard today, I would appreciate a like, a share, or a review on the platform that you're listening on, because it really does help some of us little guys that are just getting started on our podcasting journey. And it also helps you and other house stackers find our great content as well. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I want to give you our beginner's guide to getting started in real estate. which outlines all the key steps that investors need to take to acquire your first, your second, your third property. And you can pick this up simply by going to stackinghouses.com/beginner. And until next time, happy investing, my friends.